Hey guys, so in this episode we're going to create a CLI tool for backing up and restoring a collection of MongoDB database. So to demonstrate the final thing we're going to make, let's run mocked. That's how I call my app. That's how I call the tool. And here asks if we want to backup or restore. I will choose backup. I will leave the default here, port default, database name, nutritioner app, and we want users. And yes, I want the default output directory. Okay, so as we can see here, we have a dump folder, and this is the database, and this is the collection. Now, if we go back and run this again, select restore this time. Now, here it finds, it reads the current directory and sees that there is already a dump, and it gives us the name here as well as a collection name. And also the path of the source directory is built. And yeah, this won't work because I already have the database there, so there's a conflict, but you get the idea of what we're going to make. Now, so what was the reason behind making this tool? Well, while working on a personal project, nutritioner app, I wanted to export a large MongoDB collection, and I tried various ways, including the official tool from MongoDB called Compass. But even though I was able to export, I was not able to import again my export file for some reason. And then I went to read the file directly and input line by line into a new collection, but that didn't work as well. And then I discovered that MongoDB has two commands for backing up and restoring, and they're super fast. So the commands are for backing up Mongo dump and for restoring Mongo restore. Now, these commands can take many arguments, and that's one of the reasons that I created this tool, and I only built it specific to my own needs, but it can be easily extensible, and you can even add username and password and authentication arguments or any other arguments that fit your purpose. The same goes for Mongo restore. More or less they have the same arguments. So let's get to it, shall we? A note for those that want to see the finished tool and use it. I published it as an npm package. All you have to do is npm install -g mockd, like what I wrote in the terminal. So all you have to do is npm install g mockd here, and you can use the tool globally by running mockd. Okay, for those that want to learn how I did it and learn how you can make a command line tool, let's proceed. So first, let's remove this folder. Let's open the terminal and do an npm init. I will leave the defaults here for now. Now, let's install some dependencies. I will explain what they do in a moment. Okay. Let's create a bin folder and add an index.js file. Okay, this will be our main entry point. And yeah, so the packages we install here, chalk is for providing color to the console log statements. Inquirer is about asking questions and doing something after the action is done, is chosen. Shell.js will help us to run the Mongo dump and Mongo restore commands. Clear is for clearing the terminal. And Ficlet is one of my favorites. It adds a super cool ASCII code text like we have seen here, this here. All right, let's get started. Okay, first let's write the shebang line, as it's called. This is used to interpret, to tell the system what kind of interpreter to use when running this file. On Windows this is ignored, and the extension .js is what defines the interpreter, but for Unix system we need this. Then let's add required packages. And lastly, the file system package, which is native, comes with Node. First, let's run clear. So, as I said, this clears the terminal window. And using chalk red, we are going to style whatever is inside with the red color. In this case, the text we have in the Ficlet will be painted red. So let's call this, for simplicity, MB. So it's Mongo backup and restore, and an argument here. Okay, let's see what we have up to this point. Awesome. So we can see the Ficlet text being printed, the console is cleared, and the color is red. Perfect. Okay, let's do another console log here with green color. Welcome to MPR backup and restore solution MongoDB. Let's see what we have here. Okay, great. Now it's time to add some questions that the inquirer will ask the user. They come in the form of objects, and the type will be a list. The name of the chosen action will be action. The message will say, please select an action. Choices are backup and restore. And the default choice, not sure here, but if we need this, but let's go with backup. Now to call this, I'm going to create an immediately invoked anonymous function. You have never come across this concept before, don't be afraid. It's nothing really scary. What does it say? Expression expected. I think it's yeah, I needed to turn on ES6 here, and call variable inquire, prompt the user, and use the init questions. Let's run this, and then I will walk you through what we did here. Okay, so you see we have a backup and restore actions here. So firstly, this is an anonymous function. Basically, it's a function without a name, and it's an immediately invoked function because we call it immediately. We don't save this to a variable and then call the function. Yeah, and that's what the name implies. The Greek question mark here is used because the compiler needs to know when the previous line ends, and because I don't use any question marks, if you saw, I'm using the standard JavaScript style guide, which doesn't include the question marks, but in this case we need to add it here so the compiler knows that this here is a new command and interpret it accordingly. And also the reason I did this is because inquiry is an asynchronous prompt is an asynchronous action, is a promise, and instead we could also do this by writing inquire prompt something, and then if you're familiar with promises, but async await is one step forward, and you can say it's a better version of a promise, and it works in a synchronous function. Well, it's perceived synchronously, but it's still asynchronous, and you have to add an async keyword here that will act as a wrapper and have an await here. And when this action finishes, I will get the result in this variable. Alright, so we can see what we get each time. If I say backup restore, I get an object with an action as a key, as a property, and the value is backup, and restore for restoring. Now with this variable here, I want to call the respective functions restore and backup. To do that, and please bear with me, I'll create two more asynchronous functions. Okay, and I'm going to assign this to the this keyword context. The reason being is that I want to, when we get this variable here, backup restore, I want to be able to immediately call one of the two functions without actually writing the name of them. So we can do it like this. Backup restore action will get us the keyword, the text here, and to lowercase, so that we can call this action function here. Now the reason I did it this way, and not just with an if backup restore action equals restore else, is because I wanted to show a more dynamic way of doing this, and in the future, if there was a third option here, could just have the third option there and name it the function the same, and it will work without more if than else all the time. The second thing I want to point out here is that you can very well put these functions outside, it will still work. And the reason there is an await is because I want these functions to be async, as I will use await in here. Okay, Now let's get going and start writing the backup questions. Okay. Have type input, the name of the host. Message will say host name, and the default value will be localhost. Let's copy this. Here is the port, and the default Mongo port is this one. Now we want also database, so database name, and instead of default we want to have this as a requirement that the user inputs database name, so we can use a validate function which returns a new promise. Promises take two arguments, resolve and reject, and we check if we don't have any input and we press enter, reject this action and say to the user, please provide a database name, else we can resolve with a true. Okay, and we can do the same for collection. We want always to have a collection name, collection, and the last input will be the output directory. And the default in this one will be, as you saw in the beginning, the dump folder was created. You did not provide any path, and this process don't CWD means give me the current working directory path. This is crucial because we want our tool to run from anywhere, from any directory, so the path must be dynamic. That's why we have this here. Now let's check this out, and here we can write const. So the arguments we can get back, as always with the inquiry, we get an object back. We do it this way here with one single variable because it's one choice, but now we have 5 choices that we want to extract, and the keys are host, port, database, collection, and output. So I use the structure in here. This is an ES6 feature where you can get specific values out of a single object. It's pretty cool actually. And here we provide the inquirer with the backup questions. Okay, if all went well, let's also output them here. Okay, let's run this. Backup. Something went wrong. Oh, right. So I forgot to actually call the function here. And we have a typo here. Let's go again. Backup. All right. So as we can see in default, argument is localhost port. If I present it here, yes, says to provide a collection name and database name. We'll still use nutritional app. Collection name, yep, works as well. Users and the path, yeah, seems to be correct. And as you can see, we get the values we input back. All right. All right. Now we start with initializing an array, and we will slowly build the command with the arguments. We start with the initial Mongo dump, and then we check if host is defined. We actually concatenate two arrays here. The reason being is we need two array elements for each command, for each argument. So what I did here is this. In the end, the command will be mongo dump age and the host. Okay, I think that makes sense. The reason I did this way is because it's one-liner, and it basically means if this is defined, then do this, which it concatenates this array with this array, and it saves this in the command variable. Now I'm going to do this for the rest of the arguments. So the argument for port is P. Okay. Next is database, which is T. Collection. And lastly, we have output. Now I will use a try catch block, and now it's time to use the shell package to run the actual command. So we want to provide a string here, thus we are doing a join, space, and shell echo. We'll just print something like y, and it's done. If we have an error, we want to print that error. And exit to code 0. Okay, first I want to try and check that the command is built okay. Now let's try this out. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So the command is mongo dump. Oh, yeah, this needs to be C. This is, so always test things out, guys. Localhost, port, database collection, and output. Okay, cool. Let's try this out with an actual database. see what happens. Trationer up, users, and I want this in the default path. Okay, as you can see, it worked. Perfect. Let's also print a new line here, so you can see the output from the shell more clearly. All right, let's delete this. Try again. Perfect. Now backup is done. Let's go to restore. I will copy the questions for backup. It'll be the same almost for restore. So this stay the same. Only here will be source directory instead of output directory. And I think we're good to go now. Let's copy this over from here. Source. And this code is the same, so we can even extract it to its own function. I will leave this here for clarity for now. Mongo restore. All of these are the same except here it's only the output. From the documentation, the source directory is always the last argument. Now, before moving forward, I think I need to clarify two things. Concat is the same as if you want to know exactly how to interpret concat, it means combine. So in this case, we combine this array with this array. And the second thing I want to clarify is that this line here, the equivalent will be if host command equals command concat, and you get the idea. I hope this was more clear now. And now let's try and see if the restore command works. Restore from localhost, yeah. Trationer up. Users. Okay, this is wrong actually. Let's fix that. Don't need this here. Now let's try it again. Up users. Here we need to define the path, but we will change that soon to be automatic. Trationer up users JSON, and I know this because that's how it's inside here. We need to give the .json binary JSON file. Let's try this out. Okay, picked it up. But there was an error because duplicate key as the collection already exists. Okay, great. Now the functionality is done now, but we can make this better by trying to automatically find the database by checking the name here, and the collection by checking the name here. So let's get to do that. First, let's minimize some things here. Okay, we can call this set default values just before doing anything else. Okay, let's make it async. Okay, First, let's start with defining what we know. The path up to this point we can get with this current working directory, and then /dump give us the folder here. And then we need to check if the dump folder actually exists by doing, and that's where the file system package comes in. We're doing a synchronous task here of checking if the directory exists. So if dump exists. If it doesn't, we can just return here. No need to go further. And now we need to get the content of the dump folder. We can do this by writing this command. And it gives back an array. Again, if the array is empty, then we just return. Okay. Let's see at this point what this gives us. I'll comment out. Yeah, I can comment out everything. Okay, as you can see, it gave us the nutritioner up in an array. And now we want to push to the path array our first element in the array. So the nutritioner up like this, and now we try and get the subfolders in there by doing the same thing. Read directory synchronously and path join, just console log, see what that gives us. Right, so now we get these two files. Again, if there's nothing inside, let's return. Okay. Now we need to get the index of three things: the database, collection, and source in the restore questions array. The reason being, we need to attach default values which we will read by the path we have here now. So question from index, and the same for source. Right, now the collection is the first argument in the DB subfolders array, and we want to split the dot where there's a dot and get the left part. So we split the string and we get the users. Okay. The database is the dump dir array, and we get the first argument, which, if you recall, has the nutritioner up. And the source is the current working directory, dump, the name of the database slash the name of the collection dot JSON. Right, and now that we have these three variables ready, and we have the index of each one of them, we attach them as the default selection. Okay, at this point we can try this out and see if we now have default choices. Store. Oh yeah, we commented all this out. Also we need an await here. Not necessary, by the way. Okay, restore, localhost, let's leave that. Okay, great. Now you can see that we get the default nutrition result choice, enter, and the default collection. Something went wrong here. Oh, I forgot to call it. Let's go again. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Let's press enter, see what happens. Okay, yeah, it worked. And as I said, because the keys are duplicate and I have the database already, it won't restore it. Okay, at this point the application is finished. One last thing we can do is install this globally on our computer. We do this by making a bin here, and we say the name. What did we say the name was? mbar, and the path. Double quotes. Okay, now we do an npm install -g, and we should have access to the mbar command. There you go. Now you can access it from anywhere. Okay guys, this is it. I hope you enjoyed this and you learned something. And if you have any questions, as always, please reply in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video if you want to. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye.